Hi everyone, first time posting and on mobile, so sorry if the formatting is subpar. I recently joined r/paranormal. After reading some of your experiences, I wanted to share my own to see if I could get your opinions on what me and my family saw in the Black Hills of South Dakota. About 5 years ago, when I was 17, I visited some of my family who lived in SD and worked there for the summer. After about a month, my brother, sister, and her husband decided to do what Americans do best and go shoot guns in the woods. I had to work an evening shift, so it was decided we'd go after, around 10 p.m. Once my shift ended, we went to their house to pack up the truck with some snacks, guns, and ammo. The drive took around 45 minutes and it took us up a dirt road surrounded by trees and tall grass. Eventually it opened up into a clearing that was pretty open and flat. The nearest tree line was about 100 feet away. It was pretty dark, but the clearing was lit up by the truck's headlights. I kind of felt uneasy, but I chalked that up to just being in the woods at night. For the first 20 minutes nothing really happened. We were just setting up plastic bottles and those plastic gallon buckets you'd get water out of at an office. There was a feeling of being watched that we all felt. The area suddenly reeked of spoiled eggs. Those of you who have shotguns know they can smell, but even since going the military, no amount of guns/explosions have smelled this bad. We looked around to see if we could see the source, and what I saw I can still vividly remember to this day. What I saw was a thin humanoid figure crouching down looking at us. Even while crouching down, it was still about 6 feet in height. When I say this figure was thin, I mean skin and bones barely do it justice. The even weirder thing about this was we all saw the figure in different spots in the tree line, but we all described the same features. Tall, thin, had long dark hair. We quickly packed up what we could and left. The feeling of dreading felt that day will forever haunt me. Since then my brother mentioned the area might have been in native territory, but I don't know how if that's true. Every once in a while I think back on that day and I look up different stories and encounters people have in woods, but nothing quite resembles what I saw that day. Sorry this is a long one. TLDR, someone or something mimicked mine and my brother's voice, sounding panicked and scared. About 10 or so years ago, when I was a teen and still living with my parents, a very strange, creepy thing happened. In this particular house we had all sorts of strange goings on. Too much to include now, but I found this particular incident really unsettling. It was very late at night, maybe early morning hours, very dark outside. The whole house was asleep. I have 4 siblings. My brother's room was across the hall from my parents' room and my sister's, and I slept in the basement. My parents awoke suddenly to the sound of my youngest brother's voice, 5 years old at the time, screaming out to my dad. Just yelling, "Dad! Dad! Dad!" over and over again in a loud, terrified voice. My dad jumps out of bed and rushes to my brother's room. It takes him all of 3 seconds to get to my brother's room to see what could have my brother yelling out like that. When he opened the door, the yelling suddenly stopped. He saw both my little brothers fast asleep. He gently whispered to the brother whose voice he had heard, and tapped him to see if he was having a bad dream, but got no response. My dad thought that was kind of weird, but just chalked it up to some kind of nightmare/dream response. He walked back to his room. No sooner did he get back in bed, literally the moment he sat down on the mattress, they then heard my voice, this time screaming out to my mom, "Mom! Mom! Mom! Mom!" They said I sounded terrified, just like how my brother sounded, and like I needed help, and that it was exactly my voice, just like it was exactly my brother's voice. But this time the sound was coming from outside their open bedroom window, where the backyard and the back alley is. My mom and dad looked at each other perplexed. My mom jumped out of bed this time and decided to come check on me in the basement, even though the voice was coming from outside. She makes her way down, and I remember this part, She woke me up in my room and asked me if I was calling out to her. I was groggy and tired and thought she was being weird and of course said no. I fell right back to sleep. As she's making her way back up the stairs, she hears my voice again, the same terrified voice, screaming out to her, but from the front of the house this time. She stood by the big front window in the living room and looked out onto the street. There was no one out there, not even a car driving by. It was totally still. The screaming suddenly stopped. At that point she knew it was something sinister. She went back to bed and her and my dad talked for a bit and prayed and then went to sleep. They didn't hear the voices again that night. The next day she told us what happened and obviously we were quite terrified. She said it was uncanny, the likeness to mine and my brother's voices. I even did an impression of what the voice could have sounded like and my mum said yes. It was the exact same tone, sound, everything. So any theories as to why this happens? Why these mimic beings take an interest in people? My gut says it's just to mess with us and scare us, but I'm curious what others think. TLDR, parents hear mimic of my voice screaming, while I slept. Hi, new here and don't post much on here. Today as I was getting ready I decided to try the Spirit Box app. I know not to take these apps or anything for real, but I was bored as I was flat ironing my hair and thought screw it, I'm going to play around with this. Well, I started up the app and random voices started coming through, some in English, some in other languages. In the middle of the session my own voice came through and said, "You're going to die." I was shocked at hearing this, like these apps on phones are just for fun, right? The app is Necrophonics. I let it run longer and never heard my voice again. My question is, has this happened to anyone else? Does the app record your voice? I bought this house a little over a year ago. Overall it's pretty dull in regards to activity, which I'm happy about. However, I have my own personal little issues. It's either mental illness or maybe some kind of mind trick. Or whatever. Basically sometimes I see things in my mind's eye when I'm not asleep. I'm laying down with eyes closed but I know I'm awake and I will see faces or things. Sometimes they look back and I fucking hate that, especially when they look creepy or try to jump at me. Anyway, one night I saw an image of a very tall woman. Like taller than a house and dying, skeletal, skinny. Decaying flesh falling from some places where there was exposed bones. Field is a source of many weird dreams for me, by the way. Anyway, this woman seemed to just quietly pace the field behind the house. There is a horse back there and he goes in his barn at night and there are cows in the distance. I have neighbors but nobody that would be out in the field late at night. They are all very ancient. Tonight is a night one of many instances where I heard a woman's voice coming from the backyard and then maybe weird cow noises. I don't know, it's weird and creeped me out, but I was too scared to close the dog door, so hopefully it doesn't come in grinning face with sweat loudly crying face. My dog keeps peeing in the house lately too and it's weird BC, she only usually pulls that BS if it's raining. I'm wondering if she's afraid to go out. The nights I have heard the woman's voice, she's barking, she def heard it too. Seems to be happening more lately. Anyway, am I tripping or could it be paranormal?
Mosey on down to the Atomic Shaman Trading Post. We have t-shirts, decals, refrigerator magnets and other swag for sale. What better way to show your support for the show? Our merch can only be found on t.pub/lit/Atomic Shaman Trading Post. Like, share and subscribe to the channel and be sure to ring the notification bell. You can follow us on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Catch the live streams on Rumble. Listen to text-to-speech stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube.